Welcome to Uncontained, episode 182, and I speak with rapper CJ Soul. He just dropped an album on Friday, September 27th, titled Beat of Your Heart. We talk about that in this episode, along with his writing process and how there is no such thing as writer's block and gaining control by giving up control. It sounds very, counterintuitive to give up control to gain control, but it seems to be working for him, and he has a good explanation behind it. So that is all coming up on the show today. If you've been enjoying the episodes, please make sure you're following us on social media. It is at Uncontained Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And make sure you stop in, say hello, make sure, you continue to stay up to date with what's going on with Uncontained. And, you can also check us out at uncontainedpod.com, where there is a nice little Amazon banner at the top of the page if you want to help support the show. So I won't keep you waiting any longer for this episode. It's a fun one, and it's also informative for anybody who's going through the creative process. So tune in, listen up. This is how CJ Soul lives uncontained. But first, here's the title track off of his new album that dropped on Friday, available online for purchase and streaming, download digitally, or you can check out his website to get a physical copy of CD or vinyl, either one, from his website. The link will be in the show notes. This is the title track off of his new CD, Beat of Your Heart.
He got love. I got love for you. He got love for you. She got love for you. We got love. I got love for you. He got love for you. She got love for you. We got love.
Yeah, about the world we live in today. There's really nothing that I can say. I'm grateful for this life. I don't take nothing for granted, but to live on the planet where I'd be reprimanded if I just couldn't stand for the way that things are handled. I just don't understand it, cause I believe that we can find the peace if we can find the needs of the people. And if everybody sees that we're equal, then how could I proceed to judge? Especially knowing that we all came from the same man above. And how much hate does it take for a man to love? I need an answer till I get it, I'll be sitting up. If you wanna rock with me, I'll be there. No matter where you're from, I stay down. Together there's no breaking us down. So keep on loving till the beat of your heart. You can be whoever you love. No matter what they say, it's alright. Together we can kill it out. And keep on loving till the beat of your heart. Keep the love flowing. No matter where we're going. Together we can hold on. It seems it's taking so long. But Sam told me hold on. A change is coming soon. And if we work together, we can weather the storm. X demand of reform. This perception of separation. Unite the nation and ignite the world's elevation. Spawn the evolution. Define the solution. Stop polluting the minds of the youth and feed them the truth. The change lives in you and me. We sleep, believe.
I got love for you. He got love for you. She got love for you. We got love.
I got love for you.
If you wanna rock with me, I'll be there. No matter where you're from, I stay down. Together there's no breaking us down. So keep on loving till the beat of your heart. You can be whoever you love. No matter what they say, it's alright. Together we can kill it out. And keep on loving till the beat of your heart.
How are you doing today, CJ?
Doing great, man. How you doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks for coming on the show today. And, so as I said, as we were talking earlier, thank you for responding to the post in Gigs LA. That group has really helped out the show a lot. And, got some great guests from there. So no pressure or anything. But
It's all good. It's all good. It's all love,
All right, all right. Well, thank you for coming on, man. So, I was listening to some of your music today as I was in on my commute off of your like 2016 release, I believe it was. That's on SoundCloud right now,
Yes.
and I was kind of digging it, man. There was one that actually, "Good Day." It actually kind of reminded me like it could be a soundtrack song. All right, like in like a movie. I was thinking I could like
Awesome.
picture a scene where people are starting to like move on up a little bit, being like, life is good now, we used to have a
Yeah.
little, but you know, now it's good. I probably slaughtered the lyrics a little bit, but
But you got the gist of what we were talking about, so it's all good. Yeah.
yeah, so but yeah, it's cool, man. So first of all, like, how long have you been in the rap game?
Ooh, I've been doing this for about 15 years now. Yeah, since I was
15 years.
about 15 years. Yeah, but this is my first the first album I put out.
Is this going to be a full length that you're putting out?
Yes, yeah, full length album. There's 9 songs in the album, and there's actually a meaning behind the 9 songs. My biggest inspiration for music in general is Michael Jackson, and his
Okay.
album Thriller is the number 1 album, right, of all time, and that album had 9 songs on it. So
Oh, okay. All right. I actually heard that. Oh God, I can't remember who it was, but I heard that it got surpassed by somebody recently.
yeah,
God, I can't remember who it was. So this is a very bad trivia point right now.
my guess would be Beyonce.
No, it wasn't Beyonce. It was somebody that you wouldn't necessarily think of, like factoring in online plays and everything like
There you
that.
go.
I'll probably have to Google it a little bit later and then put it in like the show notes or at the end of the show and be like, hey, the song I was talking about was this, or the album I was talking about with this.
Nice.
But that's cool. You did it 9 songs based off of Thriller, which was actually I actually had that back in the day on vinyl. Yeah, it was my first. It was my
Nice.
first album ever.
Nice.
So
I still have the vinyl.
you do?
Yeah.
Nice. I
Yeah.
have it somewhere, just not with me. Probably at my parents' house or something like
Yeah.
that. Right on, dude. So 15 years. How did you get into rap? Did you start out rapping, or with Michael Jackson as an influence, did you start out singing?
Nah, actually, my first love growing up was basketball.
Okay.
And since I could walk, I've been able to dribble the ball. So that's always been my thing, up until probably when I was like middle school, high school age. That's when my friends and I, my sister, and a couple of friends from the block, we would put on like sketch comedy shows for the adults whenever we have like get-togethers at the house and stuff like that, right?
Nice.
and what that ended up evolving to was us writing parodies to like popular songs from back then, and we would take the lyrics and make them funny. And I was like, I'm kind of good at this. Let me see how it works when I actually talk about other stuff that's not funny. So it's like serious
real
songs,
things.
real songs. Yeah, so I start making real songs. Back then, all I knew about was basketball, so that's all I wrote about. And so, but yeah, as I got older, started to experience more things, and I draw inspiration from all kinds of different things. And I fell in love with music.
That's cool. That's cool. What were some of the parodies that you came up? Do you remember any of them?
Yeah, actually, a friend of mine and I were actually like going back and listening to old stuff the other day, and yeah, we turned "Sexy Back" by Justin Timberlake into "Love Handles Back." We turned "Soul Survivor" by Akon and Young Jeezy to "Cheese Survivor." It was a song about grilled cheese. The characters were Bacon and Grilled Cheesy. Like we did
Bacon and grilled cheese.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. We had a lot of fun with stuff, man.
Right on, right on. That's always fun messing around with stuff. I don't know about you, but I always enjoyed like listening to like Weird Al and stuff.
Oh yeah.
The one thing that always caught me about Weird Al is like no matter what genre it was, he always captured kind of a similarity to that artist.
Yeah.
Like it could be like TLC, it could be Nirvana, it could be Puff Daddy.
Right.
And he kind of gets the essence of them, you know, and in the parody. And it's like you haven't made it unless Weird Al's covered your song.
Right. Right. Yeah, it is definitely a form of admiration. You know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the only one who was upset about it was Coolio.
Yeah, and that was one of the best ones.
I know, dude. Like, I don't know if he knows how popular that was. Maybe he was upset because it got more popular than the actual song.
For real.
But anyway, enough about that. So you started rapping about basketball and slowly evolving as your life experience changed. So this album that you came up, your full-length album, 9 songs, Beat of Your Heart. Like what is the content of this album?
The content of this album, actually the 4 songs that are on my SoundCloud right now are part of the album. That was the EP.
Okay.
Kind of just putting it out to, you know, while I was working on the album, that's when I put those out. And you know, just to kind of give a preview of what's to come. So those songs are going to be on it. The title track is actually what sparked everything because I was working on a lot of songs, you know, trying to, you know, put together this album over this time. And then someone came to me with some music that he made and he wanted me to rap on it. And he told me like the subject matter that he was, you know, he wanted me to write about. You know, there's all kinds of different things going on in the world. So he was, you know, he wanted it to be like a positive song, something about uplifting people and, you know, bringing people together and things like that. And so that's where Beat of Your Heart kind of came from. And we ended up it was almost like my little version of We Are the World. You know, in this industry, I meet a lot of people, right? And so a lot of very talented people. So a lot of my friends and people who I've met over time, I brought them all together, all these different artists, and built somewhat of a choir. And they all sang, and then they all actually did their own little individual things with it as well. So that kind of created the song "Beat of Your Heart." And so when I was writing the song, that's when it dawned on me that the album, that's what the album was going to be called, and that's kind of, you know, what tied everything together. And yeah, man, it was great.
Right on. So who was the artist that came to you suggesting that he wanted to do something positive or wanted you to rap on something of his?
His name is Eric Ortiz. He's a guitarist, an amazing guitarist. Actually, he's performed with me a few times, and you know, he's a really good friend of mine. He was working on production and things like that, so he produced this beat. And yeah, he came to me, and you know, he wanted me to rap on it, and I went to his studio and we wrote it, and I was so excited, and I was just like, man, this is great. I'll call him up. I literally, like, the moment that I realized that was the name of the album, I literally called him, and I told him, I said, yo, that's the title track for the album. Like, this is it. Like the Beat of Your Heart. That's what the album is, you know.
Nice, nice. And please tell me he was eating grilled cheese at the time, because that make it full circle back to the parody days.
Exactly.
Well, that's cool. So for some reason, I think I've heard his name before, whether it's from another guest of mine that I've had on the show or what. I haven't had him on the show yet, but I've heard the name Eric Ortiz before. I'll have to maybe check him out a little bit.
Yeah.
So Beat of Your Heart, kind of the We Are the World of your album.
Yeah.
All right. So what is it that made you, besides Eric Ortiz asking you to do something positive, what else made you decide to have a positive aspect to your music? So
growing up, I wasn't really allowed to listen to rap so much growing up. And it wasn't even so much that I wasn't allowed to. It was because I listened to a lot of rap growing up, but most of the music that I heard was music that my parents played, and they played a lot of R&B, and they played a lot of songs from like the 70s and the 80s. And so and any artist that was like current when I was a kid, it was more like along the lines of Jill Scott, Erykah Badu, Maxwell, and people like that. And And so those are the guys who I draw most of my inspiration from. And also just the way that I was raised and the way that I was taught to live my life and go about my life. You know, everything that I do is you know, carried by positivity. And so,
Nice.
you know, and I do a lot of things. I do a lot of work with kids and stuff like that. So a lot of people look up to me. I had little cousins. I have little cousins that look up to me, and they learned the lyrics to all my songs when they were little, you know. And so I take all that kind of stuff into considerations. Like if I'm going to have them reciting like my songs and stuff like that, they can't be cursing every other line and talking about all kinds of different things that don't reflect actually what my life is and what my intentions for my life is, you know. So
Yeah, it makes sense, dude. Like I have a few nephews, and if they were like reciting like stuff for that I've done or whatever, not I don't do rap, but I've done stand up comedy and stuff. Some of the jokes I wouldn't want to hear my little nephew saying, but you know,
right.
I'd probably get in trouble from their parents if that happened. But but yeah, I got you, man. You want to be a positive influence for your little nephews and other people, you know.
Right.
So you got the inspiration from Eric Ortiz for this song. What about the rest of the album? What were some of the influence that went into making this album?
It was a lot of different things, just things that happened in my life. Like for instance, the Living Good track that we mentioned earlier. That song is kind of just about like where I come from, and like how you said, like people, you know, talking about, you know, different things, all the different opinions about, you know, what it is that you do and if you're going to be able to do it and all this kind of stuff. So I drew inspiration from that, you know, because when I first started rapping, people like I was in high school and people knew me as a basketball player, you know. That's just what I did, you know. And so when I started rapping, people were like, "What?" You know. And I actually,
are you trying to be Shaq or what?
Yeah, exactly, right. Like everybody wants to be a rapper, right? And so it's just like, you know. And actually, I was different, man. As a kid, I put together this performance for like an assembly, a random assembly. I can't even remember what it was about, but I performed for the assembly. Right. And I remember, I will never forget this. I will never forget this moment. It was a call and response part of the song. And I did the call part and everybody was supposed to say the response and it was like crickets. And
oh, that's always the worst.
Yeah, it was a trip. And I was, but I didn't freeze. You know what I mean? Like it hurt, you know, because I was like, dang, nobody saying anything, but I kept doing it. And I finished the performance. Right. And I remember, for like weeks after that, you know, people would, you know, tease me about it and everything like that. And so, but I knew what I wanted to do. And so I just kept it pushing. And now I'm doing what I do, you know.
Right on, man. Right on. So that's a big lesson though. You know, you kind of like, if you would have stopped like after they didn't give a response, you would have got it a lot worse than people just giving you a little crap about no response. You know, it would have been
that would have been like a defining moment of my high school career or something like that. You know what I mean? That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the moment in the movie where like the person like pauses and narrates, that was me, or whatever. You know, like
exactly. And going back to the "Life Is Good" song, like. That's the title of it, right? I didn't mess it up, or is it Living Good?
Living Good. Yeah.
Living Good.
Yeah.
Life Is Good was another guest of mine. He had a track out, Rocky Peters.
Nice.
But so Living Good, that song kind of relates could relate to anybody who is kind of in the entertainment industry as well too, you know, because starting out it's rough, like that high school performance of yours where you didn't get the response that you wanted, but as you keep going, as you keep pushing ahead, it's like you build a fan base or build some of the skills you need to go through, and then all of a sudden you like look back, you're like, wow, I've came a long way,
right?
And it's a lot better now.
Yeah. Now when I perform, people sing my songs, so it's a little different now.
Yeah, that's got to be a nice feeling.
Yeah.
So when was the moment that you decided that, hey, rap is for me? And like, I'm sure you still love basketball, but when was it like, I'm pursuing rap over basketball?
I didn't grow. That's one thing. So
Yeah, to get to the NBA, it's kind of hard doing it short.
yeah, there's only like probably three or four people I know that are my height or shorter that made it to the NBA. So
How tall are you, just so I get a perspective here?
I'm about 5'9".
5'9". Okay, you
Yeah.
got like Muggsy Bogues, who is 5'3".
Yep.
Then Spud Webb,
Yep.
who is about that short. Then I don't know.
Yeah, he's probably losing like 5'7". And what, Nate Robinson, who and both of them won the dunk contest too.
Yeah.
At 5'7" and 5'9". Yeah, so I used to actually look up to those guys because like they were little, you know. So like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Man. It's like the underdog. You gotta root for them.
yeah,
Even if you don't like their teams, unless they're playing your team, it's kind of like, okay, I'll root for this guy.
yeah, yeah. I used to wear Earl Boykins' number because Earl Boykins, he's 5'5" and he wore number 11, and I wore his number because I was little too. So like, you know, same thing.
Fair enough, man.
Yeah.
Fair enough. You know, Michael Jordan, he started wearing the number 23 because his brother wore 45 and he wanted to be half as good as his brother.
Oh, really? I never heard.
We all know how that turned out.
Yeah,
But- and that's why, like, after he came back,
he wore 45.
He wore number 45.
Yeah.
I'm from the Midwest. I grew up a Bulls fan, so I know
Nice.
random trivia about all sorts of crap. So
I love it.
yeah. So, where will people be able to find this album, man?
Everywhere, digitally. It's going to be digitally distributed everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Tidal, anywhere where you can stream or buy music digitally. It'll also be live on my website, cjsoul.com, where you can buy the physical copy of the CD and a vinyl as well if you're into vinyl. So
All right.
yeah.
Vinyl is cool. I'd have to get a turntable to do that, but you know,
Yeah.
Even one of those old little Fisher Price turntables.
That actually would be probably more cool than like one of those Urban Outfitter ones or something, you know?
Yeah. I actually have a friend who has one from when he was a kid still, and like he'd like play like a Guns N' Roses record on it and be like, wow, that actually sounds kind of good still over that, you know?
That's crazy.
But yeah, shit. I totally forgot where I was going. I got distracted with the Fisher Price record player. Oh, yeah. All right. Let's get back on track. So now you've been working on this album for how long?
About 3 years.
About 3 years. All
Yeah.
right. So what has been the hardest part of putting this album together?
Getting in my own way has been the biggest thing.
How so?
Just being consistent, and I actually stopped doing music for about a year and a half, and so like it was crazy because it wasn't even like it was a conscious thing that I stopped. Like I didn't realize that I wasn't doing it until when I started doing it again, and I was like, wow, like when I started doing it again, I was like, I miss this. I miss going to the studio. I miss creating. I miss, this feeling, and when I realized that I missed it, I was like, what? I mean, wow, I really haven't been doing it, and so I had to like reevaluate my life and make certain sacrifices and things like that. So it's pretty crazy because this all happened pretty fast, and over the past few months is when I realized this happened, and then, cut things out of my life and then started doing other things and implementing things to make myself healthier emotionally, spiritually, and physically.
Okay.
Yeah, and it just completely, like, my life took like a complete 180, and everything just started to fall in line. I was going to the studio more often. I was actually working on my projects and my songs, and because I'm an engineer as well, so I'm
Okay.
I mixed all my songs and everything, and so I was working on everything. And then everything was ready to go. And I was like, well, I need to actually put it out. And so I put together a list of goals. I wrote them down. I put them on my wall in my bedroom and just started checking things off as I go. And it's been really good for me. So I'm excited. Album drops Friday. It's pretty cool.
Nice, man. Nice. So when this comes out, your album will be available. It'll be Actually, will come out on Tuesday. So like your album will have been out for a couple days.
Yeah.
So now is the time to go check it out. Where can people get it again? Just throw it out since we're talking about the album again.
Yeah, you can get it on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, basically anywhere we can digitally buy or stream music. You can also get it on my website, cjsoul.com, if you want to get a physical copy on vinyl or CD.
All right, cool, man. Get that vinyl crackle.
Yeah, man.
All right. So, I heard you say you made some changes, like physically, for more health. What were some of those changes that like kind of helped propel you, or what were some of the biggest ones that made a difference?
Well, I did this thing. It's called a 10-day smoothie cleanse.
Okay.
And I'm not really one known to do cleanses. So, but I've always been like health conscious,
Yeah.
Like I know what I'm eating. I know what I'm putting in my body. Even if it's not healthy, I'm like, oh yeah, I shouldn't be eating this, but I'm gonna eat it anyway. Like it's good. I like it. And so, And so I kind of let myself go a little bit, and I was getting a little bit out of shape, because I still hoop. And yeah, so like I noticed my movements on the court aren't what they used to be. So I'm like, man, I'm too young for that to be a thing, So
yeah,
so I had to change that, and so I started going. I had a gym membership, I just never used it, like most people, right? Like,
yeah, you get it, go for a couple of weeks, and like I should really be going to the gym, but you don't.
You just don't. It's taking $40 out of my account every month for no reason, like. But
went through that.
Yeah, so I had to actually start using my membership, and what good is going to the gym and working out if I'm going to be eating chicken tenders and burgers every day. So what I did was the 10-day cleanse to help me transition into more healthier eating habits, and it helped me a lot. I actually lost about 16 pounds in that 10 days.
In 10 days?
In 10 days.
Damn.
It was crazy. And mind you, I was working out pretty hard in that time too. So it was a trip. And then what I ended up doing, I took a week off and then I did it again. And yeah. And then so like in about a month.
So now you're like 37 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I lost about 25 pounds, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. So and now my eating habits are just a lot better. Like I dropped soda. I don't eat a lot of sugar and things like that. I eat a lot more healthy. Yeah. So and I feel better. So it's good.
Yeah, I've pretty much, for the most part, I don't do soda anymore. Like I actually switched, basically just substituted coffee for soda a lot of the times, which, I don't put a whole lot of cream and sugar in my coffee. So,
yeah,
it's healthier. It gives you a little bit of energy, maybe makes my hands shake a little bit, but,
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I mean,
don't give me a scalpel for surgery. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Oh man.
Right on. So that's good, man. You took some steps, and they all kind of snowballed into progression, and you're finally getting to the point where you release this album, Beat of Your Heart, on Friday, available now.
Yeah.
So, what would be some advice that you would have for people who are looking to get started in the music industry?
Well, since I'm a rapper, like I can speak from, or just an artist in general.
You can be as specific or inspecific as you want about genre.
Yeah. I mean, not so much about genre, just about getting started. Like you actually have to get started, right? Like if your thing is rapping, like, start writing, even if you don't have beats. Like, cause when I first started, like I would download beats, like just so I can write to them, and then eventually I started making my own beats and stuff like that. So, but like just go on YouTube and, find some instrumentals and just write, or, and just hone your skills. You gotta actually dive in and start doing it. I think that's the biggest thing.
Right on. So just getting started doing it, that is the first step, right? Obviously, you
Yeah.
need to do something. Was there something that held you up from doing it, or was it easy for you to start?
It was pretty easy for me to start. I just I wanted to write, you know, and so it was just about me finding music to write to, and so I would find songs that I like, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna write something to this. I'm gonna write something to this, and I just keep writing, and things just flow. The biggest thing, I know a lot of people talk about writer's block or things like that, like they don't know where to draw inspiration from, and I think the biggest thing is to get out of your own head when it comes to creativity, because the creativity flows through you. I'm very spiritual with how I live my life, and so like for me, it's about letting go. That's the best way that I've ever found any sort of balance and control in my life, is by actually surrendering and letting go of the idea of controlling everything. And once that happens, then everything will start to kind of just flow, and you can kind of just pick and choose, like, out of all the things that keep coming your way, So
Yeah.
yeah.
So how do you give up control? Like it sounds so counterintuitive in a way, but it makes sense, but it sounds counterintuitive. It's like, I want more control by giving up control.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a practice, like this is, I mean, it's a constant practice too, right? Because it's natural for us to want to control everything, right? And we worry about things, and so like we're like, oh man, is this gonna work out if I do this? Like, oh, what's the outcome gonna be? You're always worried about what the outcome is, and you get lost in wondering what's gonna happen, as opposed to like, being in the moment. And when you're in that moment, that's the sweet spot. That's the zone, right? Like an athlete talks about, oh, how does it feel when you're in the zone? Like, that's the zone, when you're in the moment and you are free of thought. It's a meditative state, and when you capture that, and you recognize how that feels, then you can tap into that whenever you want to, and that's how the creativity flows, and that's when it flows the most. Where, like, for me personally, when I'm in that moment, in that zone, then it's like the pen just keeps moving without me even thinking about it.
Right on, man. Right on. But okay, you mentioned writer's block though. So when you do get into a position where you're like, or maybe you don't, but I'm sure everybody experiences it from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a certain trick you do to let go, or to try to not focus on writing so you can write, or is that how it works?
It's really about just letting your pen move.
Okay.
I had a mentor when I was younger, and he did a writing workshop, and I've always lived by this, and I always tell people this whenever they talk about writer's block. There's no such thing as writer's block.
Okay.
It's a myth. It's a myth, and it's a mental thing. It's an internal mental block, and so once you recognize what that is, then you're able to kind of just let that go. Like, if you don't believe in something, it's not gonna be able to affect you, right? Because it's not there, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So when that time, but there are times where you feel like you're not particularly able to write the way that you want to, or the way that you feel that you should be able to write, right? And so when that happens, for me, it's about just writing whatever it is that is in my head, or whatever it is that I am feeling, and just letting the pen actually, because I still write with pen and paper.
Okay.
Most rappers, like, or most people I know, like, they write with their MacBook or their phone,
keyboard.
or whatever. Yeah. So, but I like, it's a very Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a very it's a physical and like spiritual thing for me. Like the movement, the energy of actually writing. So, and it flows better for me that way. And so for me, it's just about actually letting words get to the paper, right? And then not worrying about, like, not assessing it and, oh, how good is this, or what is this punchline? Is it this metaphor? Is it good, or is it whack, or like stop judging it so much when you're while you're in it, when you're writing, let it flow out, and then once it's out, then you get to go dissect it, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? Hearing you talk about writing like song lyrics kind of reminds me of writing for stand-up comedy in a way. You know, it's like, will this metaphor work? Will this work? Will that work? Or like, oh, is this going to be funny type thing? Or is this going to land the way I want it to?
Right.
And it's kind of, in a way, that you could be a comedian saying the same thing. So this advice kind of goes cross forms of art.
Yeah, I think it applies to pretty much any aspect of life. It really does, and when I realized that, like, I try to take the same approach to everything that I do in life, and and the biggest thing for me is where everything comes from. Like, I live from joy, right? And that, joy, love, that's the core of my being, it's the core of who I am. And so when I live from that, and that comes from within me and comes out, then that's what inspires people, and that's what continues to inspire me to do that. And I live in joy, so like it's not about pursuit of happiness, because I live in it. I live in joy.
Okay, all right, nice, dude, nice. I got one more question about your writing process, and then we'll roll on to the next one here.
Yeah.
But when you were sitting there writing on days where what you want isn't naturally coming to you, have you ever just kept writing and just come up with something that was out of your wheelhouse, but like it worked perfectly or worked on a different level?
Yeah, I mean, like what do you mean?
Like, as you're writing on some, like the way you normally write, all right, writing about the subject matter that you normally write, and how you want it to flow, or how you want your metaphors to work out, but that's not coming to you that day, and you just start writing something else that you think like, oh, well, I wouldn't normally write this way, but at the end of it, you look back at it and you're like, oh, wow, I actually wrote that, that could be used for either, whether it's not a song, it could be used for like a story or a poem or something like that,
Yeah. I mean, I've had situations like that where, it's not coming out the way that I wanted to, or it's something feels like like there's some sort of obstacle in the way, right? But sometimes, like, I've had songs come together in pieces that I didn't even write for that particular song. Like, I've written a verse for one song, and then I go and write a verse for another song or another project or something like that, and then turn around and write this other verse, and then but they all for somehow come together and create one song, even though I wrote them separately and they have nothing to do with each other when I'm in the moment of actually creating the songs. But then when you bring it together as one song, like, whoa, it's perfect. It makes sense. And it's like, nice. Yeah, so I've had those kind of things happen. And like, I just recently wrote a song actually, where I wrote one verse and I wrote the hook, and I started to write the second verse, and I'm like, man, I can't really, like, what is it that I'm trying to say here? Like, there's nothing coming out, and then I was like thinking about it, and I'm like, oh man, I just wrote this verse for this other thing, and I was like, man, let me go back and then I rapped that verse to the music that I was writing to, and it just fit perfectly. And
nice,
yeah, and it was like half of the verse, but and then I was able to use that as like a seed, and everything else just flowed so perfectly after, and it was just, I ended up finishing the song like right away.
Nice. Yeah. You gotta love it when things just seem to fit and come together, even if you don't even when they aren't intended to be with the other thing. It's like, oh wait, it's got to be like stream of conscious or something like that. Like, you're kind of thinking about the same subject back then when you wrote that, and thinking about it now, but just in a different way, and it all like comes together and like weaves in like perfectly.
Yeah, I think that goes back to releasing and let it go, and things kind of just fall in line, you know.
There you go, man. So, now, what are you doing currently right now, CJ, to promote yourself in this new album coming out?
Things like this. Yeah,
Fair enough.
things like this. I'm setting up other, other appearances where I come in and do interviews, getting on blog sites and having, different hip hop blog sites do articles about me, performing, doing basically anything that I can to get the word out. Personally hitting people up. Hey, check this out. Like, like whatever I gotta do to get the word out on this album, because I feel like it's an important album. I feel like and I'm really excited about it, and so I think it's gonna be something good. Yeah.
Right. Is there anything on social media that you're doing as well, like maybe a trick or like a strategy for social media that you have?
I just want to be consistent. That was always a big thing for me with social media, because I was never really that into it. And now I find myself like always on Instagram and always checking my insights and things like that. And like I do like promotional ads on Instagram and Facebook and things like that, and try to make sure I post some sort of content at least once a day. Even if it's just like me on my story, or what I'm doing today, and talking to people and interacting with people, because of just trying to build up my engagement. So.
Yeah, definitely. I need to work on the regularly posting as well. Like, I posted about shows, I posted about interviews that I did, stuff like that. But to do it daily, along with everything you else have to do, it sounds like something very easy to do, but it's also easy to forget to do it.
Yeah.
It comes back to that point, like, oh, what am I going to post about? Almost like poster's block for a minute or whatever you want to call it. I think I might have coined a new term. I'm not sure.
There it is.
But so yeah, just being consistent. And do you do a lot of like live stories and stuff like that, or?
Yeah. Like when I just did a show about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and leading up to the show, we were rehearsing like every night basically, and that was on my story every rehearsal. Like, hey, we're rehearsing. Come see the show. And like seeing and showing people, what's to come. You know what I mean? Like, we had a band and we were, rocking. It was crazy. So like you're gonna want to come see this. Like, what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Definitely get out here and kick your own ass if you miss this.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on, man. Right on. So now, in your 15 years rapping, what would be a highlight or two that you care to share with the Uncontained audience? Doesn't have to be the highlight of your career, but a highlight or two that you want to share.
Yeah. So I guess one thing. Back in 2008,
okay,
I was a part of this group at my church. We called ourselves the Joy Ensemble. We were like teens and young adults. I think I was about 19 at the time, and we covered a song that was written by will.i.am.
Okay, for the Black Eyed Peas.
Yes, it was called "It's a New Day," and we like performed it at our church. One random Sunday, he happened to be in the congregation, and
really,
when word got out that he was in the congregation, our director came into the room where we were in, pulled us all out of the room, threw us up on the stage, and we performed that song. And and he saw it and he loved it, and he took part of the actual choir, part of the children's choir, and us, and formed this big, they called it a multi-generational choir. Took us to the recording studio, recorded the song that's known as America's Song with David Foster. Mary J. Blige was on it, Bono, and Seal, and also Faith Hill was on it.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we recorded that, and then he took us up to DC that January of 2009 for Barack Obama's inauguration, and we performed with him at the Green Ball, the Huffington Post Ball, and the Neighborhood Ball.
Damn.
Yeah, that was a crazy experience.
Yeah. So did you get to meet Obama too then, or?
We unfortunately did not get to meet Obama, but it was a lot. Like there was a lot of people backstage that we either like encountered or met or got to talk to or whatever. Like it was pretty deep, man.
Nice. Oh man, that's impressive, dude. Like starting out just covering a song for your choir. Will.i.am sees it. He's like, dude, that's awesome. Taking you to the studio, record it, then you're performing in front of the president, and wow, dude, that's quite a highlight.
Yeah, I was just happy I got to vote for the man because that was the first time I was eligible to vote for him.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I got to vote for the first black president. Great. Oh, snap. We're going to go over there and see him. Okay, cool.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Yeah. I'd happily vote for him again too if I could.
If we could, yeah.
Yeah.
Get in all that.
But yeah, I'll leave politics alone for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all right, man. So I got a couple more questions for you here before I let you get on your way for the night. But when you are performing or somebody listens to your new album, what do you want them to take away and remember about your album? Like what feeling do you want them to get when they listen to Beat of Your Heart?
I want people to feel good when they listen to my album, when they listen to my music, and when they come see me perform. I want joy. I want love. I want that sense of camaraderie, unity. So that's a big thing for me. I just want to bring I love bringing people together, no matter what that means. So I create music to have fun. To have a good time, to dance, to smile, to laugh. So like those are the kind of things that I want to do, especially when I perform, because that's my favorite thing about what I do. Like I love every part of the process, the writing, production, mixing, mastering, recording, all of it. But my favorite thing is on stage, the lights, people in the crowd, it's energy. There's I don't know, there's nothing like it, and and when I'm up there, like I get to actually have that interaction with people, it's I want to be able to make people laugh with certain things or like do certain things that are memorable. There's definitely there's times where I might single a particular person out in the crowd and rap to that person or give them something or anything to be able to I loved watching CJ Soul. Like that part was so crazy. So even when I give something, for instance, there was a performance I did where one of my songs, I noticed a girl, right? And so I had a rose and I take the rose from out my jacket and give it to her. She's in the audience. And so and I noticed when I did that, everybody else was all the attention was over there. They were like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? I was like, oh, snap. They're like, yeah. So I like to have those kind of moments where things happen. And so it makes it really memorable. Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing like that live performance where you get that instant feedback from the crowd, that instant energy. And that's just, it's definitely a high right there when you get that. You keep buzzing for a little bit once you step off the stage.
Yeah, sometimes it lasts like 3 days,
Yeah, man, that's quite the feeling right there when you're up on stage. I actually have just one more question for you, CJ,
Okay.
before we get out of here. But first, before I get to that question, one more time, where can people get a hold of you? Where can people get a hold of your songs? What's your little corner of the internet?
Yeah, man. You can find me on all social media at I am CJ Soul. Uh, I post on Instagram probably more than anything else. So like, if you want to know anything about what I'm doing, if you have Instagram, chances are you're gonna figure that out. So, but yeah, and then my music, my album "Beat of Your Heart" is available on all digital streaming outlets: Spotify, iTunes, Tidal, Amazon, uh, TikTok, wherever wherever you go to stream or buy music. Also on my website, cjsoul.com, where you can buy the physical copies, whether it's a CD or a vinyl, if you're into vinyl. Yeah.
All right, perfect. And if you send me those links, I will go ahead and put those in the show notes, so
Perfect.
so everybody can find you and find your album with these. It is out now, and so go download it, listen to it, enjoy it, and feel good. All right, CJ, man, it's been great having you on today, talking about the writing process, talking about how you got into music, talking about, what you want people to take away from your music as well. But it is time for that one final question, the title question of the show. CJ Soul,
Yeah.
how do you live uncontained?
I like to live my life, as I said earlier, through love and joy, and everything that I do comes from that. And so, whenever there's anything that I want to do or that I want to accomplish, it's always about setting that intention, knowing specifically what it is that I need to do. Once I know what it is, the how will find itself. I go out and I do it because, it's kind of like Nike says, just do it. And it sounds so simple, it's not always easy, but it is very simple. And an idea of how life works and how to live uncontained. Right.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So yeah, man, it's just love. And as long as I am constantly in my truth, and I stand in my truth and stand in my love and my joy, then anything else that happens, it holds no weight. I keep going. I keep doing what I got to do. So.
Nice, man. All right. Thank you, dude. I have one final thing for you to do.
Yeah.
And that is sign off the show. Will you do me the honor of signing off the show tonight, CJ?
Yeah, man. So, yo, once again, my music, my album, Beat of Your Heart, is available now, all digital streaming outlets and on my website, cjsoul.com. Yeah, this is CJ Soul, and I live uncontained.
And that does it for another episode of Uncontained. Thank you for listening, and thank you to CJ Soul for coming on and sharing his story with me here on Uncontained. Now, I did have to do a little fact checking after the show, because when we were talking about Michael Jackson having the number one selling album of all time, I could not remember for the life of me who it was that overtook Michael Jackson. It's actually the Eagles. It's one of their greatest hits albums that overtook it, and then it comes Michael Jackson number 2, and then the Eagles again, and the number 3 best-selling album of all time. So I knew somebody replaced the King of Pop, but I couldn't remember who. There you go. Now you have an answer for a trivia game or question coming up. Tell somebody at the water cooler, or whatever, if they have water coolers anymore. Anyway, I'm rambling. Thank you for listening, and until next time, live uncontained.